morning, children. So today we continue with the periodic table chapter. Yesterday I had taught you about what is periodic table, and we even discussed about the work of two eminent chemists. They were the Dobner and the Newland. So what is Dobner's law called as? Dobner's law of triads, and Newland, because he was a lover of music, so his law is called as Newland's law of octaves. We now come to the Lothar-Meyer atomic volume curve, right? Now Lothar-Meyer in 1869, he plotted a graph. See, I have drawn a graph from beforehand for you to understand. He plotted a graph between atomic volume and the atomic weight. As I had told you earlier, the scientists, they were only focusing on atomic weight. So he plotted the graph of atomic volume against atomic weight, and this graph, if you can see, it has the crests and the troughs, okay, the peaks and the lower portion. So what are they called as? They are called as crests and the troughs. And what did he observe, and how did he in fact place the elements over here? If you check the alkali metals, that is sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium, he placed all of these on the peaks. Why so? Because according to him, they showed similar properties. So first point about Lothar-Meyer's atomic volume curve was what? That all the alkali metals, that is we are talking about sodium, potassium, then rubidium, cesium, right? They all having similar properties they all occupy what? Occupy the peaks. Clear? Now look at the second point, halogens. Where do you find the halogens? Look over here, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, right? So they occupy the ascending portion of this curve. See, look at the ascending portion of the curve. So I write down over here halogens like fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine occupy the ascending portions of the curve, right? Next, look at the noble gases. Where will you find the noble gases? They are also occupying the similar position on the curve where you find the halogens, isn't it? At the ascending portion of the curve. So this was Lothar-Meyer's work. Noble gases occupy the ascending portions of the curve. Clear? Till here it's very clear to all of you. But his theory also failed. Why? Because he was not able to classify all the known elements of that time according to this criteria, right? Then came Mendeleev, right? The next scientist who worked was Mendeleev. So let us study now Mendeleev's periodic table. Okay, he had great insights for the periodic table. What do we mean by insights? He had proposed many important points about periodic table, right? So he was a Russian chemist, and he arranged all the then known 63 elements at that time in the form of a complete table. Till now, none of the scientists, they had arranged those 63 or 65 elements in a form of a table. He was the first chemist who had arranged the elements in a form of a table. right? So this point is very clear, and therefore it is known as Mendeleev's periodic law. He had given a certain law. What was that law? That all the elements, they were arranged in the table in the form of increasing atomic masses or increasing atomic weight. Is that very clear? So his periodic function of the atom depended upon what? Masses or the weights, right? So what were the main features of Mendeleev's periodic table? Okay, I'm mentioning it over here. Main features of Mendeleev's periodic table. So let us understand the main features of Mendeleev's periodic table. So first point about it, that he placed all the 63 elements known at that time in the form of a table. Clear? So what did that table contain? That table had group and it had a period. It was divided into group and period. So what did he mean by group and what did he mean by period? So next point, the vertical columns, okay, they are termed as groups. Now when I say vertical columns, how am I moving? From top to bottom, from top to bottom. So vertical columns, they always exhibit groups, and when we talk about groups, we say we are moving from top to bottom, right? And then there were 8 groups. There were 8 groups that he had made. That is group 1 to group 8. Clear? Then group 1 to group 7, they were subdivided into certain subgroups A and B, and the group 8 had the 3 different parts. Okay. Then third point, what did he do? The horizontal rows. Okay, the horizontal rows, he called them as periods. The horizontal rows, see how am I moving from left to right. This is my horizontal rows. So this way when we move, we term it as a period, and when we go from top to bottom, we say it is a group. I hope this is very clear to you. Okay, then the elements that he had placed in the subgroups of the 8th group, okay, they all had similar properties. This you should remember. Then this was the third point. Then the fourth point was that there were 7 periods in the periodic table. There were 7 periods in the periodic table. Okay, and in a period, the properties of the elements, it gradually changed from how? From metallic to metalloid to non-metal to noble gases. This was the arrangement done. How were the elements arranged? The elements were arranged systematically as metals to metalloids to non-metals and lastly to the noble gases. Okay. So there were some gaps also in the periodic table. When he was placing all the elements in the form of a table, he even left certain gaps if there was no atomic number, thinking that in the future, if the element of such property is discovered or obtained, then that particular element can be placed in that particular gap. So the fifth point, and this is the most important point you should say about Mendeleev's periodic table, what that there sorry he left gaps in the periodic table. Okay, because why did he leave these gaps? Because these elements were not discovered. Okay, and he thought, he was a far-sighted scientist, he thought that whenever these elements will be discovered, they can be placed in those gaps. So he left the gaps in the periodic table. Why? Because these elements were not discovered yet. I hope till here it's everything very clear to you. So now, what were the merits of Mendeleev's periodic table? The first merit of Mendeleev's periodic table was that he had arranged all the 63 known elements in the form of a table, where he had divided the table into groups and periods. What was the group? The vertical columns are called as groups. That is, when we move from top to bottom, they are termed as groups. How many groups are there? 1 to 8, whereas the 1 to 7, they are subdivided into subgroups, and group 8 has 3 columns which contains similar elements with the same property. It contains elements having similar properties. Then horizontal rows, that is from left to right, when we move, we call that period, and there are 7 periods in the periodic table. These elements, how are they arranged in the whole table? They are arranged in this form. First the metals are there, then the metalloids are placed, then non-metals, and lastly the noble gases. Even all those elements which were undiscovered on that time, then he left the gap in between, because he was a far-sighted scientist, thinking that in the future, whenever that element will be discovered, will be placed in that gap. So he left the gap in the periodic table. I hope all these points are very clear to you. He also, the most important point still left, that he had arranged the elements in the periodic table according to the increasing atomic weight. Okay, he arranged all the then known elements in the periodic table in the increasing order of the atomic masses, okay, or atomic weight. So what did I write? He arranged all the then known elements in the periodic table in the increasing order of the atomic masses or the atomic weight. This was also very important. Okay. So once again, I would like to explain you this, and then we shall move ahead. In spite of so many merits, I should say, main features, good points that was introduced by Mendeleev, still his periodic table had certain drawbacks. But before moving to drawbacks, I would also like to emphasize upon what is Mendeleev's periodic law first and foremost, and also the name that he had given to these gaps over there, in which name or he had given to the elements in the which had to be discovered, and he had left the gaps over there. So these are the 2 points that I would like to discuss before I move to the demerits of Mendeleev's periodic table. So let me talk about the gap that he had left in the periodic table. So I'm mentioning over here, he left a gap below silicon. Okay, that is Si, and named this gap as Eka silicon, which was later, which was when later discovered, was named as germanium. Okay, so this was one element for which he had left the gap. There was another gap, similar gap was left for left before boron. Okay, called as Eka boron. Okay, later discovered as scandium. Followed, and he even Eka aluminium. So when I say Eka aluminium, means a gap before aluminium was termed as Eka aluminium, right? Was also left, was later discovered as gallium. So you can see how far-sighted he was, and these elements were then discovered later and they were placed in those groups. And the next important point that I wanted to mention is, what is Mendeleev's periodic law? Okay, so I should write down over here, Mendeleev's periodic law states that the elements were are a periodic function of their atomic masses. Okay, so this was also very important. What is Mendeleev's periodic law? Mendeleev's periodic law, it states that the elements are periodic function of the atomic masses. That means he had arranged the elements in the form of increasing atomic masses. Is this all very clear to you? Now we come to the defects. Coming now to the defects, or what we say demerits of Mendeleev's periodic law, we are going to study. So though so many important points Mendeleev had stated about the periodic law, still there were certain defects found in his periodic table. What was that? The first defect or the demerit was the anomalous pairs. There were anomalous pairs found in the periodic table. Now you must be wondering, what do we mean by anomalous? Anomalous, if you remember, abnormal behavior. Water, do you remember that? So over here it says some abnormal pairs were found. Why do we say abnormal pairs? Because in the earlier part of it I had told you that he had arranged the elements according to increasing atomic weight, right? But there were certain places where he was unable to place the elements according to the increasing atomic masses, right? So such pairs were termed as anomalous pairs. I hope this is very clear. Now elements having high atomic number They were placed before the elements having low atomic number, whereas what he had tried to do, his level pairs that he was trying to arrange all the elements according to the increasing atomic weight. But there were certain pairs where he had placed the high atomic weight before the low atomic weight. For example, let me write down over here, then I'll explain. Elements having higher atomic weight was placed before elements having lower atomic weight. So this was the anomalous pairs. Example like cobalt, right? Cobalt, its atomic mass was 58.94, right? And this was placed before nickel, whose atomic mass was 58.68, right? So which one should have been placed before? Nickel should have been placed before cobalt, but what he had done, he had placed cobalt before nickel. Okay, if you see over here, therefore this became an anomalous pair, a pair which was not according to the set rule which he had given. Okay, then second point was the position of the hydrogen. He was unable to decide about the position of hydrogen. Okay, and so he placed it on top, the first, as a first element in the periodic table. So he had not given a definite position, uh, did not give a definite position to hydrogen. Okay, then third point, isotopes, position of isotopes. Now what are isotopes? You must be knowing what are isotopes. Having same atomic number but different atomic mass. Now for example, let us take example hydrogen. You all know it has three isotopes. What is that? Protium, deuterium and tritium. You all know that these are the three isotopes of hydrogen. Okay, and what are isotopes? Same atomic number but different mass number. So Mendeleev was arranging the elements according to mass number. That means all these three isotopes of hydrogen should have been given a place in the periodic table, which he had not done. Okay, he gave just one position to hydrogen. Similarly, chlorine has two isotopes. Two places should have been given, but he had given only one place. So the position of isotopes was also not clarified in his time. Then coming to the fourth point, then the chemically similar elements, they were separated. Chemically similar elements were separate. Okay, and dissimilar elements, they had come together. So let us first understand this, that chemically similar elements, they were separate. That chemical similar elements, for example over here, like gold and platinum, right, they were placed differently. The similar elements, they were separate. These two elements were separated. Then there was grouping of chemically dissimilar elements. Means dissimilar elements, they were brought together. For example, lithium, sodium, all of these were brought together with copper, silver and gold. So you can see that the property of copper, silver is different from that of sodium or lithium, but they were all placed together. So example, let me write down over here, like copper, silver, gold were put together with sodium and lithium. So this was wrong. Okay. Then there was no explanation of electronic arrangement. No explanation of electronic configuration, because they were only working on atomic weights, so there was no question of configuration, right? So these were some of the reasons why his theory was discarded. I hope Mendeleev's periodic table is also very clear. He was one of those scientists who had put lot of work into the development of the periodic table, as we had discussed earlier. But in spite of all those positive points, his periodic table also had certain demerits or the defects. So here are around 6 defects that I have mentioned over here. So due to these defects, Mendeleev's periodic table was rejected or discarded. So we do only till here today. We do little revision on the valencies and symbols today, because that is very important. That is coming in your test as well. And then I wind up the video. Okay. Now over here, what are we going to study? We are going to talk about either basic radicals, or we are going to talk about acidic radicals. Okay. So what are basic radicals? Basic radicals are electropositive ions. Okay. And acidic radicals, they are electronegative ions. So let us discuss some of the symbols and valencies of basic radicals and acid radicals. To begin with, I will start with first the basic radicals. So all those basic radicals whose valency is +1. Now you should remember, all those who have variable valency, their lower valency is called as us. Okay, this is us, and higher valency is called as ik. Okay, so now when I'm going to firstly I'm going to discuss with you all those radicals whose valency is 1, and if they have a variable valency, then you will automatically see that the +1 valency of that particular element will be called as us. Okay, so for example, hydrogen. What is the valency of hydrogen? +1. Then ammonium. Hydrogen, no, let me write it down like this. We write like this, H plus. Okay, this is the valency how we write. Ammonium formula symbol is NH4 plus. Then sodium. Sodium, how is it written? Natrium, Na plus. Then potassium, kalium, K plus, right? Then cuprous, us has come. That means it shows variable valency, low valency is us. So this is Cu plus. Okay. Similarly, mercurous. Mercury is Hg. Since it says mercurous, that means it is also showing variable valency. The lower valency is called as us. I hope you are trying to understand all this. Then even lithium, its valency is +1. So these are some of the radicals whose valency is +1. They are also termed as monovalent. Okay, they are also termed as monovalent ions or radicals. Now let me talk about the divalent divalent radicals. Okay, so divalent radicals could be like magnesium, that is Mg2 plus. Then you have zinc, that is Zn2 plus. We have calcium, Ca2 plus. We have cobalt, C small o 2 plus. Then ferrous. Now when it says us ferrous, that means it shows a variable valency. Lower valency is us, and I'm talking about divalent, that means it is Fe2 plus. Okay, then I write cupric. Look here, cuprous is a smaller valency, cupric is a higher valency with Cu2 plus. Then we have plumbus. Okay, that is also Pb2 plus. Then we have ferrous, I have already given to you. Anything more? Manganese. Manganese, it is Mn2 plus. Then platinous. Platinous, that means this also shows variable valency. This is Pt2 plus. So these are some of the divalent radicals. Now let's talk about trivalent radicals. Okay, trivalent radicals could be like your ferric. Okay, Fe3 plus. So us was 2, lower valency, it is a higher valency. Then we have aluminium. Aluminium also in the list, that is Al3 plus. Then you have auric also. Auric, how? What is auric? Gold. Okay, Au3 plus. Then you have bismuth also. Bismuth is Bi3 plus. Then let us talk about tetravalent radicals. Okay, tetravalent radicals. So names of tetravalent radicals like plumbic. Plumbus is 2 plus. Plumbic is Pb4 plus. Then you have platinous was here. Then we can write platinic. That means it is Pt4 plus. Okay. Then you have manganese was here. Manganese I had written. It is actually manganese. Then we can have manganic as Mn4 plus. So these are handful of valencies of the basic radicals. Okay, in the next chemistry period we will talk about some acid radicals and also naming of the formulas, how to make a formula, how to name a formula, how to balance the equations. All that we will do in the next video. Thank you.